Measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention.
South Africa's international relations minister spoke to reporters outside the court, where she thanked the judges for dealing with the matter quickly.
Given the urgency of the need to protect innocent civilians in Palestine and to ensure that the harm that South Africa has referred to in the case it brought before the ICJ, that harm is addressed and that people's lives are saved.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responding to the ruling.
The charge of genocide leveled against Israel is not only false, it's outrageous, and decent people everywhere should reject it. On the eve of the International Holocaust...
The court has not yet ruled on the core of South Africa's case, the issue of whether a genocide has occurred in Gaza. Now, that case could take years to be considered. Joining me now to discuss the ruling is John Packer, Professor of Law and Director of the University of Ottawa's Human Rights Centre. Professor, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Your reaction to the initial ruling, is it what was expected?
I think it's very much what was expected, almost inescapable in terms of the task before the court at this stage. As your introduction correctly said, right now this is not a treatment of the merits. It's not asking, is there genocide? That has to be litigated. There will be, we already have the positions of the parties. This is for provisional measures, which is to preserve the rights of those who are affected, specifically the victims, the alleged victims. And here there's good experience and jurisprudence from the court, and they did what they pretty much had to do.
Was there any surprises amongst the judges? I didn't see did they say a number on what the actual ruling is?
Well, a number in the sense of for and against.
Yeah, for and against.
Yeah, 15 out of 17. That's 90% of the judges. To no one's surprise, there are two ad hoc judges. The ad hoc judge from Israel, who's former judge in Israel and declared his position in advance, voted against. Little surprise, the Ugandan judge voted against the multiple questions and the multiple requests for provisional measures. But 15 to 2, including the American, the Chinese, all the judges.
So what does that mean then? Where are we right now then?
Oh, well, so this is a decision which includes orders. And this is binding on not only on the contentious parties, that's the primary addressees, and for them, they must follow it. But this automatically goes under the statute of the court, which forms part of the UN Charter. It automatically goes to the Security Council, and including amongst the orders is that Israel must report on the steps it has taken or will take in the next imminently. It must report within 1 month what it has done. Now, the Security Council should act expeditiously also, because this is a matter of peace and security in the logic of the Charter. We know that the Security Council, probably will not adopt an enforcement measure because of no one vetoes. But we should also understand that actually the other 151 states parties to the Genocide Convention now are under a clear obligation also to take steps to prevent genocide under Article 1. So that's, in my view, what's really important about this decision.
Is there, excuse me, is there a definition to the genocide within those rules that Israel will have to follow? Are they not trying to follow that now? They've said they've tried to avoid, they've warned people, they've been letting people know. Are they not following those rules now?
Well, first of all, there are 6 different provisions of the Genocide Convention. There are only 9 substantive provisions, 6 which have been alleged to have been breached. And genocide itself, the acts of genocide, are only Article 2. So Article 1 is about the duty to prevent genocide, and that doesn't just mean by the state, it means by anyone under the jurisdiction of the state. Article 3 has been alleged that all elements, that means not only commission of genocide, but also incitement, attempt, complicity, and so forth. Very much at play here is incitement, because under subsequent articles, it says if there are individuals, persons within the jurisdiction of the state who are inciting genocide, they must be not only restrained, but they must be tried and punished. So the allegations are that Israel has failed in many respects, not just in terms of the state. So the definition of genocide is already clear in terms of the acts as such. But it's all the other things that are at play here. And I actually think the duty to prevent, which is binding on all states parties, including Canada, now is really at play.
Prime Minister Netanyahu essentially dismissing the ruling today. Will Israel follow it?
Well, it may or may not. I mean, it doesn't follow various resolutions. Normally, states respect the International Court of Justice because the implication of not following it is significant. Israel's position is clear and may prevail. Just to be very clear, Israel may prevail on the merits of the case, which will take some time to decide. But their position, which was repeated again today, is that they have essentially excuses, that there was extraordinary events of 7th of October, there's a right of self-defense, and so forth. Those are legitimate, credible arguments. We'll see what the court says about them. But under what's been addressed today, the court clearly did not accept those arguments with regard to the current dispute, which is, or consideration, which is whether there's a plausibility, whether this is possibly affecting the rights at play. And there the court said very clearly, this is plausible, there is irreparable harm. In fact, the court enumerated daily acts which are causing harm.
Where does this leave, before we go, where does this leave countries like Canada and the U.S. who have supported Israel? What do they have to do now?
Well, I think what's very important, aside from the general commitment, our country, remember Chrysler Freeland in Parliament several years ago when the Liberal government came to power, rose and spoke eloquently and very powerfully about upholding international law and the rules-based international order. So kind of not respecting the judgment of the International Court of Justice is going to be problematical, not only as such, but for Canada's own cases before the court. But more importantly, also for the USA, this really raises, again, Article 1. All states, Canada, USA, everyone is obliged to take steps to prevent. So now the question is, what is Canada doing? We better be careful that we're not subsequently complicit in light of this decision.
Okay, Professor, thank you for joining us today.